You won't believe what happened in this quiet suburban neighborhood when a teenage boy decided to do something as harmless as skateboarding down the street. What was supposed to be a relaxing afternoon turned into chaos when a power-tripping HOA board member, yep, your classic Karen, completely lost it. She stormed out of her house, yelling about rules and liability, claiming the teen was endangering the entire neighborhood just by riding his board. But things took a seriously shocking turn, literally, when she pulled out a taser and used it on him. Now here's where it gets even wilder. She had no idea who she was messing with. The boy she just tased. He's the son of the town's sheriff. Yeah, let that sink in for a second. This wasn't just any kid. This was someone who had some serious backup waiting in the wings. Neighbors watched in disbelief, some filming, others too stunned to move. No one expected a simple afternoon of skating to unravel into a neighborhood scandal. And while Karen thought she was doing her civic duty, she may have just crossed the line in the worst possible way. So, what happened next? Did the sheriff get involved? Did Karen face the consequences? Stick around, because things are just getting started, and this story is far from over. The teen, Jake, had lived in the neighborhood his whole life. He wasn't some troublemaker, he was a good kid. Honor roll student, polite, just really into skating. He'd skate the same stretch of sidewalk every weekend, and no one ever had a problem. Until this one HOA board member moved in about 6 months ago. She quickly earned the nickname HOA Karen for constantly patrolling the streets like it was her personal mission. From measuring people's lawns to sending angry emails about garbage cans being out a few minutes late, she was always looking for something to complain about. That day, she spotted Jake skating near the cul-de-sac, and it was like a switch flipped. Witnesses said she came charging out of her house like she'd just spotted a wanted criminal. She started yelling at Jake to get off the street and accused him of breaking HOA rules. Rules that, by the way, don't even mention skateboarding. Jake tried to be respectful. He stopped, took out his earbuds, and explained he lived just 2 houses down. But Karen wasn't having it. The taser came out fast, way too fast. No warning, just a sudden zap, and Jake collapsed on the pavement. People were stunned, but no one could believe it more than Jake's mom, who ran out screaming, because she knew exactly what this meant. Jake's mom, Melissa, was in full panic mode. She had just stepped onto the porch to call him in for dinner when she saw her son on the ground, dazed and struggling to sit up. For a split second, she didn't even process what had happened, until she saw Karen still holding the taser, standing over him like she was proud of it. Melissa rushed over, shouting for someone to call 911, and instinctively shielded Jake with her arms. That's when Karen started shouting back, claiming she was just defending the neighborhood and accusing Jake of being aggressive. The neighbors, who'd been mostly silent until now, started stepping in. A few had caught the whole thing on their phones, and you could hear whispers turning into full-blown arguments. Some folks sided with Karen, saying rules are rules, while others couldn't believe she thought using a taser on a teenager was okay. Tensions flared as the community quickly split into 2 camps, those who supported the HOA's authority and those who believed things had gone way too far. Meanwhile, Melissa was dialing a number with shaking hands. Not 911 this time, but her husband, Sheriff Tom Jensen. She didn't even have to explain. One look at Jake, bruised and in shock, and Tom's tone changed. Quiet, focused, not angry yet, but you could feel something shifting. This wasn't going away quietly. Within 15 minutes, 2 sheriff's deputies rolled into the cul-de-sac, lights flashing but no sirens. The neighbors scattered slightly, phones still recording, whispering like it was a movie scene unfolding in real life. Karen stood by her porch, arms crossed, like she'd done nothing wrong. Jake was sitting on the curb now, head in his hands, still shaken. Melissa stood beside him, glaring toward Karen like she was holding back everything inside just to keep it together. Then Sheriff Jensen's car pulled up. The moment he stepped out, the entire mood shifted. This wasn't just Jake's dad arriving. It was the town's top law enforcement officer, and everyone knew it. His uniform was still on, badge glinting under the porch lights. He didn't say a word at first, just looked at his son, then at Karen, then back at the deputies. Karen started in again, waving her arms and saying Jake was skating recklessly, that she feared for her safety, and acted in self-defense. But it didn't land the way she probably thought it would. "You taste my son," he said, quiet and slow. "Let's talk about that." And the entire street held its breath. Karen's confident stance started to falter. You could see it in the way her hands twitched slightly, and her voice got higher as she repeated, "I didn't know he was your son." The crowd murmured at that, because really, should it have mattered? Sheriff Jensen didn't react. His expression stayed unreadable, but something about the silence between his words made everyone uncomfortable. Then came the second twist, one that no one, not even Melissa, saw coming. One of the deputies quietly walked over to the sheriff and said, "We've got a problem. She's not registered to carry that taser." Sheriff Jensen's eyes didn't leave Karen, but you could feel the shift in energy. Suddenly, this wasn't just a bad judgment call, it might have been illegal. Karen tried to argue that she thought it was allowed under HOA rules, that it was for her protection. But that defense was cracking fast. She had no permit, no training, and it turned out she'd ordered the taser online just weeks before, right after an argument with a different neighbor over dog poop in her yard. Meanwhile, Jake sat quietly, listening. He wasn't just shaken, he looked angry now. Not the loud kind of anger, but the deep kind that settles in your chest when you realize someone tried to hurt you just because they could. And the worst part, Karen still didn't seem sorry. Sheriff Jensen stood there, quiet for a long moment, eyes locked on Karen. The street had gone still, neighbors frozen in doorways, some still filming, others just holding their breath. Finally, he spoke, calm but firm. "You assaulted a minor with a weapon you weren't legally allowed to carry. HOA rules don't override the law." Karen's mouth opened, but no words came out. Her usual confidence had drained completely. One of the deputies stepped forward, gently took the taser from her hand, and placed her under temporary detainment while they sorted out the situation. That alone sent a ripple through the neighborhood. Karen, the self-declared enforcer of all things HOA, now sitting on her own front porch with a deputy beside her. Melissa helped Jake into the backseat of their car, planning to take him to urgent care just to be safe. His bruises were minor, but the emotional hit was bigger. Before getting in, Jake looked over at Karen one last time, not with anger, but with something deeper. Disappointment. Like he expected more from adults who were supposed to protect, not harm. But just as things seemed to settle, the unexpected happened. Another neighbor stepped forward, an older man who lived 2 houses down, and quietly told the deputies, "She's done this before. Not with a taser, but she threatened my granddaughter last month for playing hopscotch. Said next time she'd handle it differently. I didn't report it. Maybe I should have." The deputies exchanged a look. Sheriff Jensen turned back slowly. "Let's reopen everything," he said. "I think we've only seen the tip of this." And just like that, the real story began. The following week, the neighborhood looked and felt different. Karen was no longer seen pacing the sidewalks or peeking through curtains. The HOA board quietly held an emergency meeting, and not long after, she was removed from her position. Turns out, a few other neighbors had stories too, smaller things they'd brushed off until now. But this time, they spoke up. Jake recovered well, both physically and emotionally. His parents made sure he felt supported, and the community that once felt divided began to come together in unexpected ways. A few neighbors even set up a casual skate afternoon for the local kids, showing support and reminding everyone that being a kid shouldn't be treated like a crime. Jake recovered well, both physically and emotionally. His parents made sure he felt supported, and the community that once felt divided began to come together in unexpected ways. A few neighbors even set up a casual skate afternoon for the local kids, showing support and reminding everyone that being a kid shouldn't be treated like a crime. As for Karen, legal action was still pending, mostly for the unregistered taser and the use of force against a minor. Sheriff Jensen kept his distance from the case, turning it over to a neighboring county to avoid any conflict of interest. His focus stayed on Jake, making sure his son knew one thing above all else: none of this was his fault. Sometimes, the people who shout the loudest about rules forget the most important ones: respect, empathy, and basic decency. And this time, the noise got quiet real fast.